Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the St. Louis podcast for May 26, 2023. I'm one of your glorious hosts, Garrett Atkins, the CEO of an award-winning and fastest-growing marketing agency, founder of the studio we are sitting in right now, chairman of a holding company that owns multiple home service companies, writer for Forbes.com via the Forbes Agency Council, and I'm alongside my co-host and business partner across a few of those companies, and a gentleman whose beard is as formidable as his intellect and as intriguing as his stories. You went really crazy there. Eric, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. We should have added into the intro that we are a 5-time award winner of Small Business Monthly Best Marketing Firms.
Is it 5 or 4?
It might be 6.
It's definitely not 6.
I think it's 5. We got 5 on our wall, right?
We have more than 5, but of that specific award.
That specific award, there's, I believe, 5 years in a row.
Okay. Which they give out in November, which we'll get into here in a second. Today we have Ron Ameln. Speaking of St. Louis Small Business Monthly, we have Ron Ameln, the president of St. Louis Small Business Monthly, on the show today. And we're going to get into the weeds with him and his business. But before we do, this is the St. Louis podcast where each and every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, we drop an episode on all major podcasting, audio, and video platforms, such as Spotify, Apple, YouTube, major social media platforms, and more, where we meet the most badass people and creators to talk about business, entrepreneurship, and current events. You can watch the show live or later on youtube.com/the St. Louis Podcast, just like Katie Baker and Matt Parker are right now in the back of the studio. If you hear voices that sound unfamiliar, you are not schizophrenic. It is just Katie Baker and Matt Parker in the back of the studio. I forgot to say this a few episodes ago. They've actually been on the show for, I think, 2 or 3 episodes now, and they've been talking, and we haven't even introduced them a single time, actually.
I don't know what you're talking about. You are hearing voices in your head. There is no help for it. You know, there you go.
We're going to have to get you a medication for that.
Yes, already have some. Now let's jump into it. Ron, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here today, guys.
Of course. Well, Ron here, again, is the president of St. Louis Small Business Monthly. He's been the head honcho over there, I just learned, for 17 years now. But he actually bought the business from its previous owner, so it's been going on for longer than that. He plans and coordinates all Small Business Monthly events, such as the St. Louis Business Expo, which occurs twice a year?
Twice, yeah.
Twice, yep.
Yes, and I've been going to that, at least one of the two, if not both of the two, for, I think, since we started in
probably
business.
5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years,
Probably
yeah.
about the same amount of time we've won those awards, you know?
Yeah, and it is one of the largest, if not the largest, business expo in St. Louis/Missouri. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you were actually named Small Business Monthly's Journalist of the Year back in 1998 before you purchased the business?
In 2008, I was the SBA's Journalism Advocate of the Year. So basically that means I'm out there fighting for small businesses in a journalistic manner.
Sure. And so Ron here, his background is actually, what I also just learned, is that it was in sports journalism, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And you worked at, and for those of you who are in St. Louis, which is most of you, he wrote for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Yep. And where else?
The Daily Tribune in Columbia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Both of those I am familiar with, and most people in this area would be. That said, how long have you been at St. Louis Small Business Monthly? Based on our talk before the show, you were there in the 90s?
Yeah, I started in 1992.
1992, and you were there till what year?
Oh, boy. Probably 2004 or 5.
2004 and 5, and then you went to work for...
SSM Healthcare.
What were you doing there?
I was in charge of all their publications, all their printed publications.
Oh, wow.
Out. So all their magazines, all their doctors, newsletters, I mean, every printed piece that went out of SSM, St. Louis Healthcare, came through my office.
Okay. Is SSM a Missouri/St. Louis brand, or is that national now? Or
SSM St. Louis is part of a larger SSM organization around the country.
Okay. Were they a nationwide organization back when you were working there?
They
as well?
were, yeah.
Okay.
They were.
And how long were you there?
I was only there a year. I believe I was there a year. And then I came back. I left there and purchased the Small Business Monthly.
So what happened between the point of you at St. Louis Small Business Monthly in 1998, right? And then you left for a year, and then you came back and bought it. What happened when you were SSM that was such a big shift?
It's kind of an interesting story. I kind of got tricked into buying it, actually. There was a gentleman named...
And you're still there.
There's a gentleman named...
I've heard that story before, Gary.
Yeah, he actually got tricked into buying something, too.
There was a gentleman named John Gatewood who owns a lot of entrepreneurial businesses, who buys a lot of businesses. And he was going to buy the business and fix it up because the business had a lot of issues. He was going to buy the business and flip it and sell it in a couple of years. And so he knew that I had worked there for many years, and he called me out to dinner one night, and we talked, and he said basically, what are the 5 things I need to do with this business to turn it around?
Sure.
I told him, because I was really involved in the publishing field at that time in the industry, knew a lot of publishers around the country. I told him what others were doing to be successful. I told him these are the 5 things I think he needs to do. And so he said, well, he called me later and said, why don't you run it for me for a couple of years? And then when I flip it, you can either stay here or you can do something else. So I decided to do that. Well, in the meantime, his financial structure with the previous owner of the business fell apart. They couldn't come to terms, so they thought they had the terms down, but then things changed a little bit. So he ended up not buying it. And so I was kind of gung-ho about running it. And so the previous owner, when that fell through, she came directly to me and said, well, hey, you were going to run it anyway. Why don't you just buy it for me right now, and we'll call it a day? And that's what we did.
So it's actually a complicated story, as most mergers and acquisitions are.
Yeah.
One of the companies we own is a holding company called Mogul Holdings. And we started it by starting our own. It's all about, we'll expand outside of it eventually, but we just start or attain equity within contracting companies. And then we use our marketing company, Vi Media, to scale the contracting companies. And of course, at Vi Media, we have clients, regular clients we market for as well. But one thing I have learned, especially over the past 6 to 12 months, is that mergers and acquisitions seldom are straightforward. You think they will be at the beginning, and then next thing you know, shit hits the fan, and you gotta adjust.
Well, when you get into the due diligence of the whole thing, that's when things usually will hit. The shit will usually hit the fan.
Yeah, they will. When you pull out the P&Ls and start looking at the debt.
Let me see the EBITDA. Ooh.
But this gentleman, John Gatewood, who wanted to buy it, he wanted to flip it. And the thing about having a really small business, and at the time we had like 4 employees, is when you only have 4 employees, if you have one bad employee when you have 4, it will sink your business.
That's 25% of your company.
And we had a couple of bad employees, and so John knew and I knew that if we just changed those 2 bad employees, this company was going to take off. And we were not profitable at the time I bought it, and that's exactly what happened. And it really had nothing to do. John was not looking for this business because of the industry or what we did. He was looking at it because our numbers were so bad, and he knew there was potential there, and he knew that if we could just change a couple employees, the business would take off.
So what were you doing? What was Small Business Monthly doing then versus what have you done differently, I guess, over the 20 plus years that you've kind of ran it?
Yeah, well, when we bought it, Small Business Monthly, 98% of the revenues of the business came from the magazine. It came from advertising in the magazine. And obviously, if you know anything about the print industry and publishing, that you're not going to survive with that. And so, one of the first things we did when we got some new folks on board is we got everybody together and we said, hey, we are not in the magazine industry. If you think we are, you got to leave. There's the door. We are no longer in the magazine industry. We're in the business education industry. We're here to help business owners grow their companies. Now, we're going to do that through the magazine. That'll be one of the ways we do it. And now our revenue is about 48% from the actual magazine. So we started having expos. We started having events. We started doing our accelerator program, which is a business fundamental program for business owners. We printed a couple books over the years. We managed a nonprofit organization, Missouri Venture Forum, which brought business owners together. So we did a lot of different things all with the sole purpose of helping to educate business owners so tomorrow they can do better than they did today.
So the Accelerator program, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Well, real quick, I did want to say something because we just assume the audience knows what St. Louis Small Business Monthly, and undoubtedly most of the St. Louis business owners that are listening to this podcast do. But Ron, if you want to tell us a little bit about St. Louis Small Business Monthly, which is the business you run.
Sure. Well, we have several different things going on with Small Business Monthly. We have the magazine, which comes out monthly. It's a magazine that basically provides guidance for business owners. We have a lot of successful business owners that share their stories, their success stories, and how they were able to build their companies. We have a lot of business owners that will showcase how they did a certain strategy or tip that helped them grow their business. And then our other division, we have an event division, and we do the two big trade shows in St. Louis. We also do a trade show in Kansas City, and we also have our educational events, which are business fundamental events, and we'll do those around the country. We'll do them here in St. Louis, and we do those throughout the year, and we publish books. Every year or two, we'll have a different book out that.
So St. Louis Small Business Monthly is publishing these books?
Yes, yeah.
Who's writing them?
Usually our staff. Usually it's we've written a book about some of the best.
So it's not ChatGPT?
No, not yet. Anyway.
Ron, are you lying to us?
No. And we can talk about that later. We've actually looked into that, and it's not working so well. So, we've had several different books. We've got a business fundamental book that we published a couple years ago, which is really our business fundamental workshops are based on that book. And we also have another book about St. Louis entrepreneurs and how they overcame the odds to build their companies. And there's so many great stories out there, and so we tell those stories with the idea that you'll learn a lot of lessons that will help you run your own business.
Sure. How many books do you think you guys have published since you've taken over?
We've published 3.
3?
So,
Okay, so you just started this recently?
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually awesome. I've been wanting to get into writing my own book, and then it went as far as meeting with a ghostwriter and realizing I could buy a house instead. So, no, I should probably, now that ChatGPT is out there, I probably should actually push through and write a book. It's really a matter of what subject matter I want to go over.
How to write a book with ChatGPT?
I could write a book on how to write a book with ChatGPT.
Done.
And coincidentally, write it with ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Or Bard.
Ooh.
Write a book about writing a book with ChatGPT with Bard.
Bard, yeah.
Well, we actually did one of our, several years ago, we did one of our business fundamental workshops in Dallas, and I ended up staying there for 4 days extra and just pretty much locked myself in a hotel room and wrote the book. But I'm a writer by trade, so it's probably easier for me to do that. But
you went full blown Heath Ledger.
Getting away from everybody and turning off the phone.
The better ending.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
It's too soon.
Is it?
No.
But getting away from everybody and really being able to focus that time was probably the only way I would have done it with a wife and 2 kids and a business and.
That said, family, what do you got going on? You said a wife, 2 kids?
Yeah, I've been with my wife since we were both in high school. And we've got 2 kids, a 20-year-old who's now studying accounting in college and a 13-year-old who's about to go into high school.
Oh, wow. How long have you guys been? You said since high school?
Yeah, 1986. We met in high school in 1986.
And you guys stayed together since high school?
We did. Well, actually, we were together for 8 years.
You were a St. Louisan.
Well, yeah, definitely. We stayed together.
Sad.
We were together 8 years before we got married, and then we were together 9 years after we got married before we had kids. So
I'm just giving you crap. I'm engaged to someone I went to high school at the same. Well, she was actually. I graduated when she got into high school. I'm 5 years her senior, but we didn't start talking until, I don't know, 7 years later. So, but she went to the same high school as me. So I don't know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, we're living a very 1950-ish relationship
you guys are,
style.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
I'm not much better. So, that said, when it comes to St. Louis Small Business Monthly, what have you guys changed from back when you worked there to when you took over? What's like the first 2 or 3 things you changed from when you worked there to when you took over and bought the business?
Well, I think it's the perception of what we were. I mean, that's the first thing we did is we got everybody together and we said, we are no longer a magazine. That's not what we're doing here. And what we're doing here is helping businesses grow. And that changed the everything that we did in the company. And so we started looking at opportunities that would help businesses grow instead of looking at ways to make the magazine grow.
So make it more of a, for lack of a, and I know this just from working with you, just to preface this conversation, I've done, to an extent, a decent amount of work with Ron. We
presented at the expo.
We've been to the St. Louis Small Business Expo for, this year. I don't think I've been yet, but I'll go to the one. I think I'm going to speak at the one in November.
Mm-hmm. November 8th.
Yep, November 8th. And then we've been to the last 5 years worth, at least 1 or 2, like I said earlier, and we've spoken at them before. We are lucky enough to have clients who are raving fans who have nominated us for various awards through Small Business, St. Louis Small Business Monthly. And like Eric pointed out at the beginning of the show, ever so humbly, we've won 5 years in a row the best in business marketing firm award with St. Louis Small Business Monthly 5 years in a row.
I just remember the first time we won that award.
I was stoked.
We had no idea. I don't think, or maybe
we didn't know. We didn't know. You're right. The first time we won that award,
we had no idea.
Someone told us.
Yeah, I forget.
Someone read it and then told us.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it was like, this was like, again, 5-6 years ago. We didn't have any idea about Small Business Monthly.
That's right.
Business Expo.
It was Chris and Deanna Lay.
We knew nothing about any of this industry. Yeah. Because we were like digital marketers. We don't need print.
Yeah. Deanna actually did us a solid.
We don't need that.
Someone we networked with at their networking group. It's the people who run ICAG. Deanna Lay actually was, we're real close with them and Chris back then. And Deanna actually went out and talked to a bunch of people without telling us and got us nominated for the award by various people that we work with. And sure enough, we won, unbeknownst to us. And then ever since then, we've been making a pretty big push every year to make sure we keep winning.
Mm-hmm.
So just by marketing to our clients and stuff like that. Now, I think we've won Most Innovative Firms, another award they offer.
Yep.
And I think St. Louis Small Business Monthly, they not only do they have, the magazine, or, well, I guess would you call it a magazine or newspaper?
We call it a magazine.
Magazine.
It's in newsprint, but we call it a magazine.
Okay, so they have the magazine, they have their website, they have the events, they have the accelerator program, and then they have fun ways of marketing your business, which I was getting to the point is it's kind of like you turned it into a marketing firm in a way, right? It's still journalism. You still have that aspect of the business. For example, one of the awards I won, I think 7 people won the award. This was 2 or 3 years ago. And it was Most Admired CEOs or Most Admired Business Leaders. And I had someone nominated me or a few people, I don't know, and I won the award.
Is that the one you asked me to nominate you for?
So that said, and Mom, you better keep your mouth shut. That said, I won the award, and Ron actually reached out to me, scheduled a phone call, and he interviewed me on the phone. I remember I was standing in my kitchen talking to him on the phone. And it was actually sick because it was like a legitimate journalism interview. First time that had happened. Other times I've done PR. They send me an email. I send an email back, and then they take snippets out of that email and put it in an article. It's kind of lame, and like not organic. The way Ron went about it with me.
It's not personable either.
No, it wasn't, and it wasn't very fun. This was actually a good time doing that, and then they had me and the other 6 people out, I guess all on the same day or different days, and they took professional photos as well. That would then be used for the section that we were featured in. So I had my own little section on the magazine. Whatever month they announced that award, had the picture, had the interview that Ron did with me over the phone, and it was a damn good time, actually.
Is that the award you dropped on the ground that's bent in the corner?
No. That is... Oh yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah, it's hanging behind my desk. Actually.
I love it.
It's hanging behind my desk. Wow, you're really ratting me out today, buddy. I'm gonna find a new co-host. It's gonna be the Garrett Atkins show. So it is Ben. I need to get that replaced.
It is Ben.
I know.
Wait, that wasn't you that dropped it. That's right.
No, it's not that one. The Forbes one is better.
Oh, you're right.
The Forbes one.
It gives it more character if it has the little few dings and scratches in it, right? It builds character.
That's actually my favorite plaque, though, is the one we're talking about.
And they shipped it from China, though, so that's probably why it got damaged. You know?
The Forbes one
Forbes is owned by China? No?
Well, no, they've been owned by, Forbes is owned by China. It's sad. Ron, are you owned by China?
We are not owned by China. Not that I know of, anyway.
That's good. Very few things in the United States aren't.
Got that right.
But we won't get into that. We'll save that for controversial topics in the second half of the show. Tell us. So you gave us an example, and correct me if I'm wrong. You added marketing as like a service basically you offer,
sure,
but without calling it marketing. You have the awards that people can win, and it's not just for marketing firms or most innovative firms or most admired business leaders or CEOs. You also have some awards that are exclusive to that year that won't pop up ever again. Some that will happen this year, not next year, but maybe 2 years down the road. I've seen that happen. And then I've also seen ones that happen every single year, like the best in marketing, best in accounting, best in reliability, best in IT, et cetera, right?
Exactly.
And then on the other end, you have, as you were saying earlier, it used to be 98 to 99% of your revenue. You still have where you're selling advertising in the campaign, which famously we have not done yet that we actually need to do. We just keep winning awards, but we actually need to buy ads from this man. That said, or actually, I think that was the Business Leader Award. But that actually, to speak to St. Louis Small Business Monthly's effectiveness, I didn't even pay. I just won an award, so I can only imagine what happens when you pay for an ad in the magazine. But when I won the Business Leader Award, I actually landed EHPN, which is an IT company here in St. Louis, as a client. I introduced you in a group text to Matt Petrick. So he's actually someone I got as a client because of the feature in St. Louis Small Business Monthly. And then he reached out to me saying, hey, I remember you talking about St. Louis Small Business Monthly. Do you know someone over there? Because I was thinking about doing something with them. And then I introduced Ron and Matt in a group text. So, but that said.
Small world.
Yes, it is very small world. But that said, so that's what you did back when you took over the business. What are some things you've done recently to reshape? Because right now, I mean, especially last decade, I got to say, 2013, 2023, the amount of interest, and this is just no, surprise anyone, but the interest in newspaper print has dropped dramatically.
Sure.
Therefore, what have you done with your business to adapt with the times?
Well, I think that when we look at 98% of our revenue when we bought it, and today it's 48, and really we've done all of the educational pieces, and now we're looking at coaching. It's something we want to come up with probably in the next 6 months to a year, and we have a plan for that because we go around the country and we go to all these organizations, associations, and conferences, and we help people with these 3-hour, 2-hour, 6-hour business fundamentals, but then we never touch them again. They may buy one of our books when they leave, but we don't touch them again. And so we want to have an opportunity to continue to help these folks in a coaching realm. So we're going to bring on some coaches that come on board with us and really help take these businesses to the next level, as opposed to just going in there and teaching them some business fundamentals and never seeing them again.
So these are premium paid coaching, like a service, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. That's something you're not doing now, but you're about to do?
Yep.
What else do you have coming down the pipe? Because that's awesome.
Really, the expo is going to other cities, and we're in Kansas City, we're in St. Louis, and we're looking.
Oh, you guys are in Kansas City?
Yeah. So we're looking now at other cities, like we Indianapolis is one city we're looking at. Memphis is another city. So we want to try to move those to other cities as well.
Have you? How many have you done in KC so far?
Just one.
Just one. How'd it go?
It went good. It was slow. We worked with 2 chambers of commerce there, and it's more difficult there because we don't have that magazine platform that we have here.
Yeah. I didn't think
and
about
so, that. So we have to rely on a lot of different partners, but it went well. And
so for that kind of stuff, are you utilizing things like Eventbrite and LinkedIn?
We do, yeah.
How was your experience with Eventbrite? Because I've historically tried to put together a lot of different events over the years. And most time I give up before we even get to the actual launch of the event, but sometimes I don't. And we have a bad show out instead. So that said, what is your experience with Eventbrite, and what do you think are some really good practices for throwing an event, since you have a lot of experience doing that here in St. Louis?
I like Eventbrite just for the exposure that your event gets. we don't use it for the RSVPs or the registration stuff. We don't use any of that stuff. But when we market our expos, we have a very broad marketing plan. I mean, we do $4,000 worth of radio ads. We also do a ton of Facebook sponsored ads. We do LinkedIn sponsored ads.
How does the LinkedIn and Facebook work for you?
It does well. I mean, we do a lot of retargeting too. So with everything we do, we try to get people to the website, and then we'll retarget them once we get them to the website.
Sure.
So everything is about website. Just get people to the website.
Sure.
So that's what we do, and we have our magazine as well, and we have our we over the years we've really focused. We have four main scoreboards in our office, and one of them is our database, and it's getting new business names and email addresses into our database, and our employees have worked tirelessly over the years to do that. So we have a great e-blast platform with a ton of names, and
we get them.
And we recently just started to sell that to third parties. And tough decision for us to do, but we recently started doing that. I know Spectrum Reach has utilized that. Some technology companies have utilized it as well, because we're sitting on a bunch of names, bunch of qualified small businesses. And
how big is your guys' email list?
It's over 60,000, and we can segment them in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
We can just send it to attorneys, we can send to accountants, we can send to IT providers, we can send to marketing people, and we can do that in a lot of ways. And we did that because we basically didn't trust Facebook and LinkedIn. We didn't trust the statistics we get from them. We didn't trust who they were going to.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. And we don't control the platform. For example, I'm in Facebook Meta jail right now because of a post that we put up.
Did you talk about Andrew Tate, Donald Trump, Kanye West, Elon?
No COVID.
You know what we did? We have
anti-vax.
We go to our advertising partners a lot of times with ideas. We went to Spectrum Reach with an idea to. They're trying to reach.
Who's Spectrum Reach?
Basically Spectrum. You turn on your cable TV. That's who's running it, and they'll do the ads that are on all the cable stations, right? Spectrum
I
Reach
didn't know that.
Yeah. So they're trying to reach small businesses. They're trying to reach marketing people who will bring their clients to them and say, I've got a female, so maybe we'll put them on Lifetime. I've got a male sports guy, maybe we'll put their ad on ESPN.
Sure.
So they're looking for that, and they offered free $2,500 of free advertising to sign up for the program. Now, the reason they did this, their marketing strategy, was they wanted to get people to raise their hands who might be interested in their product.
Yeah, sure.
And so they gave away. So all I did was they put a Facebook post out that said they were offering this contest, and I reshared it. That's all I did. But something about that free $2,500 must have struck their AI program the wrong way, and so I'm in jail right now. But but other people in our company can post stuff. But I can no longer post anything, and I can't talk to anybody there, so who knows how long I'll be in jail. So
I was going to ask one thing, sorry. With the radio ads and the Facebook and the retargeting on Facebook and LinkedIn, how do you measure success for that when it comes to an event?
It's difficult. It's difficult.
So is there any direct conversion?
Well, we're looking at, because we're trying to get everybody to the website. I mean, we're looking at website numbers, and we're kind of correlating when those responses come and when our radio ads ran. And we haven't, we probably should dive deeper into those numbers. But we like and it's interesting because. And what you guys do is a great service, because we will, after an event, we'll send out a survey to all of our folks, right? And one of the things we've asked them over the years is, how did you hear about us? And we'll have several radio stations down, and KMOX will be one of the ones we'll put down. Now, we've never run ads on KMOX, partly because we can run ads on 3 different stations for the same price we can run on KMOX, right?
Yeah.
So every year we get the surveys back. Guess who wins as far as how they heard of us on the radio?
KMOX.
Definitely. And so, people, they don't exactly know where, they hear it, but they know they heard it somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to gauge, from the folks. And so we use the numbers, and quite honestly, we think we need to be on the radio just for that exposure. We need to be in a lot of different mediums, radio and digital, and so that kind of answers that question. It's difficult. It's really difficult to tell.
Yeah. No, that's why a good, if you ask me, about 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 digital marketing companies just have a bad rep, because anyone with a laptop can pick it up and say, hey guys, I'm a guru, I'm a digital marketer. And, even out of that 2 out of 10 or 1 out of 10, only a portion of them can actually track analytics properly and determine, okay, my client spent $1,000 and made $10,000 off of it. And so being able to track analytics, that's really what sets a good marketing apart from a bad one when it comes to digital, at least. I know if you're doing TV and radio, there are ways to track success, but most people are just doing it for brand awareness and don't even think beyond that.
Right.
Which is very
Well, they
unfortunate.
just sell it based off impressions, just like essentially Facebook. If you're just running a Facebook ad based on impressions. I mean,
and impressions
it's
don't pay my bills.
Right.
Well, you are correct.
It is. It's very difficult, though. I'll tell you a quick story. My son. Okay, so he's in high school and he wants to date this girl, and he goes up to this girl and he asks her out one day, and she says no. Right. So the next week he goes to her friends and says, "I really want to date your friend. Will you go ask her for me?" And their friends go ask her, and she says no. Well, then the next week during class, he writes a little note. He says, "Will you go out with me?" And he writes a box that says yes, and he does a box that says no, right? And he gives it to her. Well, she hits the yes box, So they become boyfriend and girlfriend. And she later tells him that the first time he asked her, she wasn't so sure, but she never thought of him as a boyfriend, so she didn't think about it. The second time her friends asked her, she started to think more about it. And then the third time when he brought the note, she was like, yeah, I want to date him. Now, the problem is if you use the analytics on this, right, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, every time I market, I need to market. Every time I want to go out with somebody.
Your son's going to be trouble.
We need to hire a son for sales position.
I'm saying.
Because his follow-up game is on point.
This guy doesn't give up.
But if you look at this in an analytics way, you're going to say anytime you want to go out with somebody, you need to send them a note, right? Because that's what worked.
Yeah.
But the reality is all three of those things
work. The three-step process.
Yes, and you don't see that in the analytics, and that's what makes it so difficult, and that's why people need to hire experts who understand it, because that's what makes marketing so challenging.
Great analogy.
Do you see that on LinkedIn?
And this is a story, real quick. This is a true story.
Oh yeah.
Okay, proud father right there.
That's right. Are they still together?
He was like, I can tell this story.
Actually, they are.
Again.
They are, yeah.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
How long have they been together? We're going to appeal into your children's
year and a half
lives,
or so, I guess.
Oh, nice.
So if they end up getting married as well, that's like father, like son.
I guess.
True.
High school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Both. Persistence. You hear that, sales team? You're not going to get them on the first try. If only they could follow
what
up
is
that
it
good
what
with
is
prospects.
What's the rule that's always touted? It's an average of 6, 7, or 8 follow-ups.
No, it's between 80% of sales happen between the 8th and the 12th follow-up. Therefore, if you don't follow up and just try to sell Ron the time you meet Ron and never talk to him again, you're playing with a fraction of 20%.
Yeah.
Let alone if you only follow up 7 times, you're still only playing with 20% max.
Well, and that's what makes the analytics of marketing so difficult to understand. And I'll tell you another quick story that happened to my neighbor. His son is going to college, right? And they do the tours, Mizzou and Southeast and Missouri State. They do all that stuff. They're driving down the highway one day and they see a billboard about UMSL. And UMSL is having their come to see us days or whatever they call it, right? And so they start talking, and the son's like, I never really thought of UMSL. So they go home and they Google UMSL. They get more details about it. They register online, and they go to the event. Well, he ends up really liking that event, and so they go to school there. Well, I'm at a business bank when I'm sitting next to the director of marketing at UMSL, and he's telling me about how they're getting rid of traditional advertising like billboards because they don't work. Because his analytics are telling him people are Googling, they're going online to learn about UMSL, and so again, this is the difficulty of just looking at analytics.
They're wrong. That's the thing. So we work with clients that do traditional with our stuff and who don't, And I can tell you right now, those who do tradition, and I own a digital marketing company. However, and this is the first time I've actually talked to this with anyone outside of our tight-knit group, but we're actually partnering up with someone that's pretty well known in traditional advertising here in St. Louis and starting a company called Vi Advertising. And that'll be like Vi Media, but it'll be traditional ads. So TV, radio, OTT like Netflix, Hulu, Twitch, YouTube, etc. And the reason we're doing that is because we've worked with a really big contracting company once and still do. And that really big contracting company, their PPC campaigns, their Google pay-per-click, the ads you see at the top and bottom of Google for the audience members that don't know, they are wildly more effective than the clients that aren't doing traditional advertising. Because if it's not the first time they've heard about this client because they've seen them on TV, heard them on the radio, or seen them somewhere else. Therefore, when they see that ad on Google, even if that campaign is identical to another contractor in the same industry, in the same market, spending the same amount of money on the campaign, theirs, which is the case, we've been in that situation, they will not get almost half the results because they're not doing the traditional ad side. And I think that's what people don't understand. Most businesses, I think it's 80% or 81% of businesses never hire a single employee. Therefore, most businesses don't have enough money to use both traditional and digital.
Yeah. That's what
so therefore, they wouldn't. Yeah. They have to choose one or the other. And so if you have to choose one or the other, you probably should do digital, right? Because you can measure a return on investment, you can scale quite easily, and you can target a demographic more specifically.
I mean, if you don't have a lot of money to spend and you're going straight to radio or TV, you're on a hope and a prayer.
Yeah, you are. unless you just have the right station. Like if you're a political candidate on the Republican Party, advertising on the Patriot probably isn't a bad idea, right? Which is a radio station, I believe, here in St. Louis that's targeted for conservatives. However, unless it's some specific case like that, definitely going to be more suited to be on digital if you have to choose one. And specifically, not SEO, you want to do something where it's money in, money out, like pay-per-click ads, where you can track like down to the cent that you spent and down to the cent that you made. But yeah, traditional advertising, there's a lot of value there for it still, whether it's magazines, radio, TV, you name it. But it's kind of like retargeting on Facebook. Like you're doing it so they hear about you again, or that they hear about you a first time. That way, when they see you on a conversion type marketing like digital, they take action because they trust you.
Well, digital marketing from a guy who sells marketing is really a daunting industry. And then when I bought this business, I went around to a lot of publishing experts around the country and said, what can we do, to build this thing? And almost all of them said digital, digital, digital. You need to be all digital. You need to build this great website and sell ads on it. And so we decided not to do that. We decided to go for the live events instead.
Sure.
And we did that because to me, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I see the digital marketplace is a 90-10 business, 90-10 industry. So meaning that 10% of the or 90% of the profits are going to 10% of the companies, the Facebooks, the Google, the you name it, LinkedIn. And so Small Business Monthly is not going to get that. I mean, we're never going to get that. We're never going to have the reach. We're never going to get that. And so we went where no one else was going to go, which is live events. I mean, very few people are going to have expos because it's a long, drawn-out process. It's expensive. There's upfront costs. A lot of people aren't going to do that. And so, and that's why we've stuck with the magazine because, everyone knows that, people are reading less. But we have a certain niche. We don't have 15 publications in town that are trying to get that small business market. We pretty much own it. And so people
you guys
come
in
to
St.
us.
Louis Business Journal, for
right?
The most part.
And the Business Journal is more for
it's a different market.
They're
slightly.
news. They tell news. They share news. They'll tell you who's buying what building, and we don't cover news. We're all directly to the business owner how to build your
small business.
Right. So we
they're also annoying because I get their stuff on Facebook all the time, sponsored ads, and it's like $5 a month.
Well, and I have to log in anytime I want to read something on their freaking website.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's a paywall that a lot of publications.
I had to.
Can we talk about this paywall real quick?
Real quick.
Okay,
real quick.
Hurry it up.
That said, we won an award with St. Louis Business Journal, and we couldn't even look at it without paying.
Right, right.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Now you're making money off. I guess I won't look at it, but I think we ended up buying it just so we could look at it, right?
Well, it's just like I don't understand how news organizations online expect anyone to pay monthly. So you're asking me to pay $5. Post-Dispatch, I think, is as well, right?
I think it's smart because, honestly, if they could all do that, I think about this. One of the problems, and I was going to get into this for controversial topics so we could all get canceled today, is one of the reasons that journalism is, and this is a pivot, but one of the reasons journalism is so fucked up right now, and most of America, there's polls out there, and I mean, I also think it's common sense that everyone has trust issues to some extent with the media, whether they hate just Fox or they hate just CNN, or you're like me and you're like, why would anyone believe any of it? And one of the reasons that's the case is because there are for-profit companies making money off advertisers.
Yeah.
Therefore, for the same reason Elon Musk started charging for verification on Twitter, that now takes the load off Elon, even though it's not nearly enough money. That said, he was trying to get the load taken off him to where he doesn't have to be so advertiser dependent. And when you're like the most trusted name in news, whether you're Fox, CNN, CNNBC, etc., and you're making most of your revenue off of companies that are huge, that have all their own political agendas that benefit them and policy to push in their own way. I mean, do you think this news organization isn't going to listen to what these big advertisers have to say in regards to the political climate?
Well, I mean, COVID was proven to do that, right? Because what is it? Pharmaceutical companies are the leading advertisers.
Before you guys get into that, go ahead and go do the sponsor read.
Okay. And real quick, let's have a word from our sponsors. Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our sponsor, Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee. Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance is recruiting agency owners here in St. Louis.
That's right, Garrett, and everyone knows what Farmers Insurance is, and if they don't, they will now.
Yes, it's kind of a household name. That said, as many of you know, a large part of our audience is made up of badass business owners, entrepreneurs, and top producing sales professionals with an open mind like yourself. Farmers Insurance is currently searching for driven individuals who aspire to own their own business or already own their own business and want to add another income stream to join the Farmers Insurance brand and own their own insurance agency.
This is a stellar opportunity to build your own insurance agency from scratch, take over an existing agency, or if you're just a slow roller, we know you, the guys out there and ladies, get paid to train under an existing successful agency owner before starting your own.
Holy shit, Eric. That means that whether you have experience as a business owner or you've never heard the word business before in your life, there's a pathway to owning your own business through Farmers Insurance Agency led by Mark Lee.
That's right. You can become a Farmers Insurance business owner even if you've been homeless in the past, just like you.
Yeah, thanks.
If you've ever dreamt of being your own boss, building a team under a reputable brand, and making a difference in your community by offering top-tier auto, home, and commercial insurance to consumers and businesses in your area, Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the godlike man himself, Mark Lee, has the perfect opportunity for you.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com to speak with Mark Lee, the district manager of Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, to become a Farmers Insurance agency owner today.
Did you hear that, St. Louis? Go visit insurancecareerstl.com. Insurancecareerstl.com. That is INSURANCE. Career, CAREERSTL.com.
To become a business owner today, again, one more time, visit insurancecareerstl, as in St. Louis.com today, right now, this second, or reach out to us at stlouispodcast.com and we'll introduce you to Mark Lee ourselves. And I promise he won't spell out insurance and career to you.
Now back to the show. We're back with
Now we're back.
All right. So pharmaceutical companies. So we were just talking about journalism and so pharmaceutical companies. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, feel free to fact check me. Two people on their phone behind me that's supposed to be helping us with the show. You see them back here?
Yeah. You said phone singular though.
Phones. I believe that pharmaceutical companies are the leading industry in terms of advertising to...
When you say that, what do you mean by money invested, number of them?
No, I'm saying on a yearly basis, they spend more than any other industry on advertisements.
I could see that.
With CNN, Fox, etc.
Yeah, there's 154 industries, so yeah.
I believe that we're either the only or one of two first world countries that it's legal to advertise pharmaceuticals in. Everyone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, the conspiracy, it's not even a conspiracy anymore. That, I mean, the same reason YouTube and stuff was canceling people that were talking about COVID on YouTube, because their advertisers, the same thing. They're like, yo, we can't have these people talking about whatever. You know?
I mean, that's what's wrong.
We say COVID one more time. No one's going to ever see this video.
And the reason that I brought
YouTube,
this up,
sorry.
Back to the topic at hand, the reason I brought this up is because we were talking about the paywall in St. Louis Business Journal after I thought about it as you were talking. I do respect the paywall so long as you're not doing the paywall and being bought out by advertisers. You know what I mean?
But it is both.
Which, of course, they are.
Are you telling me like Washington Post and New York Times, I got to pay you $2 a month?
But that is the solution to not doing it if you had integrity at all whatsoever.
Right, Substack.
What about Substack?
I mean, that's essentially what Substack is. It's like Patreon, but for journalism.
I didn't.
Are you familiar with Substack?
Pay as you go kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's like
you pay for a particular guy or girl, and you'll read their article.
Oh, so it's like Twitch. So you only subscribe to one person.
It's kind of like OnlyFans, except for journalists.
Okay, exactly.
He doesn't know what Twitch is, but he's all about OnlyFans. Let's just take that for the record.
So I've heard. Yeah.
I'm sure he just knew that because he's a journalist.
I definitely don't pay $10 a month to OnlyFans, but New York Times can have my money.
Yeah, and
Mrs. Ameln's going to be fucking pissed.
Traditional newspapers, the biggest mistake they made was offering their product for free at the very beginning of, and now they're trying to play catch up because the words that they put out there, people were paying for. And now they put it on, and when the internet came up, everybody was all so excited. They all dove in, and they all put their words that people were paying for before on for free, and now they're trying to play catch up.
Well, that's why everything's clickbait, right? Because if people aren't paying, then you got to make money from advertisers. The easiest way to make money from advertisers is by showing that number.
Yeah. One thing I did want to talk to you about, though, because you were right and you were wrong, in my opinion. And what I'm referring to is when you were talking about when you chose to do live events instead of digital. You were right, in my opinion, because there's what was it? Remember when we studied the book Traction? I know you didn't read it, but I did. And there was like only 12 traction channels you could choose from. And live events is one of those traction channels, otherwise known as marketing channels. But for sake of argument, this book called Marketing Channels, Traction Channels. So one of those is live events. As you pointed out yourself, live events is an undersaturated traction channel. So that's awesome. And it's highly effective in business. And it's especially undersaturated here as opposed to maybe Chicago or New York or one of the Big Ten. But on the contrary, investing in PPC, Facebook, Instagram, while I agree that could totally work, or I agree with you that, most of the money does go to the top 10% of companies. In fact, it's worse than its top 1% of companies. I disagree that not doing digital would have possibly been better, or at least something you do simultaneously. Because on the website side, since you are in a smaller city, like where I think we're one of the top 20 maybe in regards to either population or size. That was someone I knew. That was Vidzu Media's president.
Mm-hmm.
That said, he has the St. Louis Small Business Monthly website pulled up. Sorry, audience. That said, where was I? What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So for the website, that could easily be the biggest revenue generator for you guys. Because since you're in a smaller city, SEO is a little bit easier here than you trying to SEO that in New York City. New York City, I know for a fact, same with Chicago, they have so many different journalism outlets and they have so many different business journalism outlets, a lot more competitive than you have it here in St. Louis. But for you, you have like a certain section of the Post-Dispatch, you have the St. Louis Business Journal, and then you have some smaller ones. And arguably, based on my knowledge, at least on the magazine side, you guys are more well-known than most of those besides maybe Business Journal, because Business Journal is a national, they're a conglomerate, basically.
Yeah.
So that's not a fair comparison, but nonetheless. And then Post-Dispatch is like, our New York Times, basically, here. So that's also not
propaganda.
A fair comparison.
I'm just kidding.
Also,
ish.
That said,
ish.
Ish. Well, I don't read it to know.
Oh.
So, but we won't get into that. We won't slander and defame. That said,
I just see the two people smiling behind me. So,
yeah, they're like, "Shut up, Eric." That said, with the website, you could easily SEO and then have your ad spots purchasable through the website, and literally have a virtual magazine of like, this every month it shows the virtual magazine as up to date as you can get it, because I know sometimes you're probably adding in sections up to the last second, right?
Right.
And it shows where the ad spots would be. They could visualize where the ad spots are. They're flipping through the magazine. The only ones that are available are the ones that haven't been bought by other people. Otherwise, they're blacked out or show who bought it. That way, it creates a bandwagon effect. They click on it, gives them pricing options, and even tries to upsell them on another page after they pick one option. And as long as you're SEOing well, you could even start SEOing under marketing terms, because that is a form of advertising. Ad spots, magazine spots, start advertising for some of the terms St. Louis Business Journal is showing up for, because I've looked into it. Their SEO is not that good. The main reason that most journalism outlets have good SEO is because they've done so many articles.
Right.
And the sheer size of a website does matter in regards to SEO. And that's another thing you guys haven't been doing, because I keep up to date on your website as well. I remember hitting you up about it a couple times. The longer journalism outlet waits to adapt to the web, the more behind they'll be, since the sheer size of the website does get taken into account. But I always thought about, that's one of the reasons I reached out to you in the past. I guess I just never explained what my theory, not really theory, it would work as long as you show up well. Because in SEO, you can quite literally figure out which terms have the most volume factually in black and white. You could say, okay, there's 1,000 people searching for St. Louis Magazine ads a month. And then you can see who's ranking for it now, because we can see who's ranking for those now and how much of that 1,000 they're getting. Let's say St. Louis Business Journal is capturing 500 of it, half of the market for that term. We can see what strategy they're using simply by scanning their website with a tool. Now we know what strategy to use to start capturing some of that 500 or that 1,000. And now you're getting people to your website who have high buyer's intent because they're searching a high buyer's intent term. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's a lot of the advice that we got when I bought it. But I think at the time we had so many issues, and it was the learning curve was so large for us at the time. We had to point a direction and go, and back when you bought focused.
Back when you bought it, probably live events was definitely the better option, and probably still is. It's way less saturated than SEO.
Well, until after COVID. I mean, we lost 40% of our business during 2020 and early 2021.
Yeah.
Do you run ads on the website? Like, do you sell ad spots?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
I know. I was going to bring that up too, but I wasn't sure if they had them on there. I think I've seen them.
But we don't push that a lot, probably as much as we should.
Yeah.
But we do. We do.
The reason I said that is because earlier you said the whole goal of your marketing is to get people to the website.
It's for the Expo website.
The
we have
Expo.
another website for the Expo.
Okay.
So we want them to come to the Expo, and so every ad will run on radio or Facebook sponsored ads or our e-blast will all try to get people
to a
the
landing page,
to a land so they can register.
Yeah.
And we could get their information. So now we've got them in our database, and they can come to the show, and so we can show them why they should come to the show. So that's the whole part of that. That's the strategy that we have when we're promoting the show.
So we've established you're a business badass. So that, we've built up enough reputation for Ron Ameln here. That means it's time to move into Ron, instead of being a guest, being a co-host on some topics here. And so we're going to move into the controversial topics section. Ron, we're recording, so be careful.
Okay.
That said, let's talk about what we were talking about earlier, which is, one sec, got an itch in my eye there, which was journalism in America right now. One of the things I brought up earlier is that I forget it depends on the poll, of course, but in every poll I read, a large majority, an overwhelming majority of Americans do not trust the media. And I know you were in sports journalism, and obviously you've been in business journalism for a long ass time now. That said, what do you think is the root cause of, and you don't need to be an expert by any means, but you probably have a stronger opinion than most, or at least a more educated opinion than most, due to your background. That said, what do you think is like the root cause of why everyone is so distrustful towards the media?
Well, I'm distrustful of media. I have a journalism degree. I think, I got into journalism because I love the marketplace of ideas where, when I go out with my friends, I'm in a group of other business owners. We go out to dinner once a month. And there's Republicans, Democrats. We're shooting ideas and we're listening to people's ideas. And to me, that's journalism. I mean, two sides of every story, sometimes three sides to a story, and throw them all out there. And that's just not the case now. And I think you're right about it. At the foundation of all that is the clicks. You've got to get people's attention. When I was a kid growing up, we had 3 TV stations, to watch, and you had 3 news shows at night, and each news show would get like a 20% share. Yeah. I mean, so and these days you're lucky if you get a 6% share as a news show. And so you're fighting and clawing for those people. And if you're both walking down the street and I come up to you and I say, hey, I'd like you to tell you the story about this watch. It's a great watch, You'd be like, eh. But if I come up to you and say, if you don't listen to this story about this watch, you're going to die. You're really going to focus on me.
That or run away.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's what's happening. They've got to get those viewers. They'll be as outrageous or say anything.
Negativity gets attention. And that's one thing I've noticed. And I think it's, I'm calling me a conspiracy theorist. I think that, I don't think. Over 95% of the media is controlled, like major media companies are controlled by 5 companies on the news side. Let alone then you go to the tech side, and it's also, 5 companies. Because you got Disney and Warner. There's 5. I think it might have been consolidated to 4. It's either 4 or 5 on the regular traditional news and movies and TV side.
Yep.
Then on the tech side, you got another 4 or 5. So you got 10 companies controlling an overwhelming majority, literally 95+% of the media that people we know consume. Mm-hmm. And most of that is led by, at the head of every company is one person. And then you have shareholders and board members, and it's just small groups of people influencing the decision of not just 300 million people here in the United States, but let's face it, the United States is a decision maker on a world scale. So they're really affecting the decision making and opinions of billions of people effectively. Because I'm on Twitter every day, and I can't tell you that all my UK friends on there, or Europe in general, even Middle East, they're talking about what's happening in the U.S. every day.
I mean, we know it's state propaganda, right? For the most part.
Well,
the dissemination of information.
It depends what it's about. If they're just covering like something that happened at the zoo, no.
Or it gets turned into something political, and then it's written from a right or a left standpoint, like the train derailment in
Ohio.
Yeah, in East Palestine. Yeah. And you turn on Fox, and it's all they covered, and then you went to MSNBC.com, and it's not even being shown, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I have to wonder why a majority of I know small news station talked about it, but Google suppress so as SEO people and digital marketers, I can kind of tell when things are being suppressed on Google. And the East Palestine thing, for a while, they tried to keep it under wraps for 2 weeks. Yeah. It was suppressed on Google to where when you searched it, you wouldn't see anything that even looked remotely credible.
Bad. Yeah. Well, all the stuff about the animals dying, all the stuff in the water. I mean, you couldn't find any of those articles.
It was all effects because of that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of free speech is everyone gets to have a say, and some people are going to say really crazy, wacky, stupid stuff, and that will get filtered out over time by just human beings listening to all different ideas in the marketplace, and that that has gone by the wayside. I think when you think about that, I think the old adage "follow the money." I think that's in media and in politics in general. I mean, you look at President Biden and this stuff with his son Hunter Biden and the money that he made. I mean,
that was suppressed.
You cannot tell me that didn't influence, and it's not just.
That's like it didn't even happen.
Right.
Or like it doesn't matter.
Well, and it's not just Democrats either. We had a Senator Blunt here in Missouri for many years, and he had two sons, and both sons were lobbyists, and his wife was a lobbyist. I mean, how are you a U.S. senator when every freaking member of your family is a lobbyist? And of course, if you ask him, did
they're taking deals left and right.
But if you ask him, he'll say, "Well, of course we never discussed it. I never discuss anything." I mean,
I don't discuss anything with my wife.
I mean, that's just follow the money. If I decided to run for governor of Missouri tomorrow, and let's say I won, right? I have an older sister. I mean, she would get a job for $500,000 from Ameln or Enterprise or anybody who wanted something from the state within hours. I mean, that's just how it works.
And you wouldn't have to ask; they'd be offering it to you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They would be like, "Hey, we got this position open for favorable stuff." Well, the Hunter Biden thing is
that was suppressed so much more.
Well,
than
again,
the Hunter, more
with
than the
YouTube and Twitter, they were kicking people off for that too. Remember, they were banning people.
They were. Yeah.
Same
the New York
COVID.
Post.
They were putting. I would post
the
about
New York Post. They banned the article on it. Facebook straight up said no.
Do you guys know? I mean, of course you know. I don't know if you know. The New York Post is one. I think the oldest.
I think it is.
Yeah, the oldest
New York
publication.
Post is.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've made mistakes over the years. They've been around for. I don't know how many years.
The main reason they get flack is because they're right.
They're not. They're moderate, and now if you're moderate,
you're right.
You're right.
Yeah.
So, I was probably Democrat at one point before the line moved. So.
Well, I mean, Robert F. Kennedy.
Not. By the way, I'm not Republican either. I'm neither. Fuck it all. But
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is like the typical liberal from like the 90s, and now we just keep the bar keeps moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I'm not a Republican or Democrat. And I think, when I went to Mizzou, I'll tell you a quick story. I'm a big basketball fan, so I couldn't wait to go watch the Tigers play basketball, right? Because in my high school, basketball wasn't that big a deal. So we go to the first game, and I go with a bunch of guys from my dorm, and we go, and it's a great game, great atmosphere. And the Mizzou guy brings up the ball, right? And, one of the other Kansas players, kind of rubs up against him just a little, and my buddies around me are going crazy, like, that's a foul, and then the Kansas guy comes down the court, and like there's literally 4 Mizzou guys hanging on him, right? And they call a foul, and they're like, what? That's no foul. You know? So this goes on the entire game. So we're walking home, and I'm telling the guys, do you feel like you watched a different game than me? Because every time we came down the floor, there was never a foul. And every time they came, and they were like looking at me like, what are you talking about?
What are you not for Mizzou? Dude?
And that's what's happening in politics right now. Is these people, the diehard Democrats and the diehard Republicans aren't even seeing the playing field.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is so clouded, and that's an issue because the politicians, they don't care one way or the other, but they're just following those diehards because they need them to come vote. So they're saying or doing whatever it's going to take to get those people who they're not even close to being in the arena, much less watching the game at this point.
Yeah, I don't understand because to me it's just Republicans and Democrats are two sides of the same coin, and most of these decisions aren't made on TV or in a public setting where we can see how these decision-making processes occur. And just due to groups I've been a part of and life experiences I've had, I can tell you for a fact, and it should be common sense in my opinion if you know how high-level people operate, is that a lot of these decision-making things that affect much of the legislation that gets put up, much of it gets passed or not passed, people who get elected or who even runs for election are happening behind closed doors. I mean, most things aren't on TV. They're not being covered in the news. There's no way to cover most things. There's 24 hours in a day, and everyone has their own life. So therefore, most of this is happening behind closed doors. And most super wealthy people, most super high operating people, well off, these people probably think a very similar way to where I do, where they realize that the whole system is more or less BS. There is a difference between conservatives and there's a difference between being liberal, but neither party, not the right or the left, everything they say is right. It's not even possible. Some of it's wrong on this side, some of it's wrong on this side, and right on this side. So that said, most of these decisions are being made behind closed doors in small groups of people, and then for some reason, it looks like, and I don't know a stat on this, but it looks like a majority of people, at least half, if not more, are either identify super hard on one side or super hard on the other. And it just seems like a divide and conquer from the media and the powers that be, in my opinion.
But the interesting thing is that a lot of that comes from the folks who are the diehard residents who are diehard Republicans or diehard Democrats. It's a lot. When I was a sports reporter, the fans, they love the Cardinals, right? And they'll do anything for the Cardinals. But the players, I mean, they play hard, they give everything they got, but they could give a crap about the Cardinals or the city, because when the season's over, they're going back home, and next year they could be playing for the Cubs. I mean, they don't have that allegiance, and politics is a lot the same way. A friend of mine I went to journalism school with, he got a job at the New York Times right out of college, and he was telling me this story, and he's working on Capitol Hill, and Senator Ted Kennedy, the late Senator Ted Kennedy, was on the floor of the Senate, and he's having this huge argument with this Republican senator. I mean, they almost have to be separated. The cameras are there. These two are just going at it.
Sure.
And so afterwards, he's at the bar with his editor, down the street, and Ted Kennedy's there, and Ted Kennedy's at the bar having some drinks, and in walks this Republican senator, and my buddy's going, "Oh no, this is not going to be good. These two guys almost got in a fist fight 10 minutes ago." But the thing was, they both went, embraced, and had a drink together, and were laughing and joking. I mean, they don't even take it as seriously.
That's what, that's
exactly. As the people
They're on
who
the
are
same
following.
team. They're on the same team.
No, they don't see the lines the same way the fanatics do. They don't know how the game works. These people would switch sides if they knew for a fact they'd get elected tomorrow.
Well, because
99% of them.
Yeah. Politicians need blocks of voters, and they need money. And those two things, they will do or say whatever they have to do to get blocks of voters or money.
Yeah, like I believe JFK would probably be running as Republican if it wasn't against Trump. He probably thinks he has not JFK. Rest in peace.
Right.
Sorry, RFK would probably be running on the right if he wasn't going up against Trump, and he probably thinks he has a better chance against Biden, which I agree with. Trump even said he ran on the right.
Trump would just make fun of his voice and he'd lose.
I mean, probably.
We were just talking about this on the way here. I'm like, he has a lot of good. I just cannot stand listening to him. I can't. I don't know what it is. RFK.
Oh yeah,
Junior.
It's hard.
It's like
we are in a very visual.
I can't do it.
We are in a very visual world, and an audio focused world, and that is tough.
I feel like the Kennedys got enough money to figure something out.
No, they don't. I looked into it. Like it's a real bad condition. Like if anyone could figure it out, it would be the Kennedys. They're not broke by any means.
Wait, you're talking about his voice can't be fixed?
Yeah, no, it's a real, huge problem. Look it up.
Don't disagree.
It's not his voice that sounds like that. He has a disease that caused his voice to sound like that.
But he should start every single time he talks with that, because that would make a lot more sense.
But it sounds like it sounds kind of like rough and kind of badass, doesn't it? I mean,
it does. And
send him over to Russia and have him have a 20-minute conversation.
If that guy says he's gonna fuck you up with the U.S. military, you probably believe him.
The voice would really help you.
Yeah.
He also wears like the old school Kennedy. Like he wears the super skinny ties, super skinny black ties, the old school white FBI. Yeah. The old school white FBI like shirts, the skinny black tie, and he looks it looked like JFK. It was really weird.
No,
but yeah,
they all look everyone in the family looks similar over the years. They have very distinct features as Kennedys.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point I was saying is like, I think he probably would have, just based on his policies, I think he probably would have ran right if it wasn't against Trump. I think Trump, unless, they succeed in putting Teflon Don in prison somehow, which I don't think is going to happen, he's going to win the primaries no matter what.
You don't think DeSantis has a chance?
No.
No, neither do I.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So let me take over your show for a minute and ask you guys a question. Trump, is he electable? Yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
You think he is electable?
Oh, 100%, yeah. And
to me personally or to people?
Just in general. Would he have a shot to win the
I think if it's him and Biden, he's going to beat Biden this time.
Oh,
around.
yeah.
You think so?
Yeah,
yes.
No, for sure. I think he's beaten Biden. And I didn't vote in 2016.
Well, Biden said he won't do a live.
I was talking.
Sorry. Biden said he won't do a live.
Sorry, I'm going to keep talking.
No, Biden was saying he won't do a live debate. Apparently, he's not doing live debates.
Good.
Well,
it's because he'd stammer and not figure out how to.
That's actually so messed up. We shouldn't be. I didn't vote in 2016. I'm not going to vote this time around because I don't want 10 years from now when they just start putting people in a firing squad.
It's not my fault he sucks,
votes.
Garrett. That's not my fault he sucks.
Well, what I was going to say, I wasn't commenting one is better than the other either way, but I will say that if a current president, let alone a president-elect that we don't have to reelect, can't even speak live in front of the United States, I mean, that's a big deal to me. Actually is kind of fucked up.
I think the fact that if it is Biden and Trump, I mean, that's just, what the hell? What are we doing wrong in this country?
I agree.
We don't have,
agree.
It shouldn't be either of them. It shouldn't be either of them.
Well, and why should the Democrats and the Republicans get to pick who we vote for? I mean, if anything, have 4 or 5 people from each party run. But it's like in high school, it's student council, right?
It's
so like
true.
The
That's
jocks.
So fucked
if
up.
you go in high school to vote for student
the money,
council,
DNC and the RNC pay the way.
Yeah, you're right. But it's
so
like in
if
high,
you're not, if you're not
like
one of those.
If you're in high school and you go in there to vote for student council, and they say, well, the jocks think that Mary Beth should be the person, and the brains think that, well, what if I'm not a jock or a brain? Who's for me?
Well, libertarian, I love it more and more. Like it, I listen to.
You keep loving it, but
I listen to Dave Smith, shout out, comedian, hilarious. But he talks about like the stuff we're kind of talking about in a comedic way, which makes it a lot easier to digest because there's nothing worse than someone just talking about stuff like we're talking about in a at least not a super serious way and having nothing to take away from it.
Yes, our show sucks. So that said, now that Eric is ousted us for being terribly boring.
No, I'm saying we're not boring. We've been laughing. It's not like we're super serious right now.
Yes, no. I was just giving you
chill
shit.
out. Biden's going to throw a Predator drone at this building.
I tell you, if I was in charge of Biden, I think I
He's
would
definitely got some keepers.
I would definitely keep him away from the media. I would keep him away from interviews.
Not letting him talk's a smart move.
I think so too.
But it should
100%.
also, like, to me,
Red
it
flag.
means it means he doesn't get elected.
But
unfortunately, that's not the case for most of America, probably.
I think where his handlers have failed was Joe Biden's strength is really being that Uncle Joe guy that during the time of a tragedy,
the one that touches you.
Comes out and puts your arm around you. Like the thing that happened in Ohio, the train derailment. I think they missed a great opportunity there for Joe to go out there, shed a couple tears with people, walk around. He doesn't have to talk to anybody, walk around and hug people, and I think that is his strength.
Yeah, he's already about to die, so the chemicals wouldn't have done much.
Yeah, that's right. So exactly, and so I think that is where they should be, playing his role up, and I think that they're blowing it on that.
I think they're going to get Gavin Newsom to come in. It'll be a late move, and
he'll never win.
No. He won't. It's literally going to be
Trump. But if it's Trump and
RFK
Newsom,
or Biden.
But if it's Trump and Newsom, I think Newsom has a chance.
Look,
Even though he is the governor, even though he governs arguably the worst state in the United States,
I can promise
which
you
is
that
California.
They could put up pretty much anyone. The only way Trump's going to get defeated is if some celebrity type person comes in and runs against
Dwayne
him.
The Rock Johnson.
Well, literally would have a better chance than any politician they could put up against him.
I am opposite you guys. I don't think Trump is electable at all.
Why?
I don't think majority of women will vote for Trump, and I think that the only reason
conservative women love him. There are so
they
many
do,
people on Facebook that post,
which is half of women.
The only reason that Joe Biden beat Donald Trump is Joe Biden was seen as that middle of the road Uncle Joe kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know, and especially women are just turned off by Donald Trump and his brashness, his New Yorkness.
Yeah.
And they're turned off by that.
According to his famous clip, they're very turned on by that.
maybe. But, you know, and so I think that's where kind of DeSantis is going to try to be that, you know, same policy guy, but a little softer and gentler type of thing. And you see the
Trump's
others
just going to run him over.
He probably will. He probably will.
Do you think anyone that's a politician is going to beat Trump in the primaries?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm talking the general, and I think he's unelectable in the general.
DeSantis is just too beta.
You think Biden's going to beat him?
I think he will. Yeah.
Wow.
And I just, you know, I think Donald Trump is just so bombastic.
He is. And I think that's why he's going to beat him. I think Sleepy Joe is sleepy.
I want to elect him just so he ends the war in one day like he said he would.
I want to elect him because he'll nuke.
Wait, no, I'm saying he would a peace treaty, not end the war.
I was like,
no,
what?
he said he'd go into Ukraine and have a peace treaty between them and Russia. He said, I think 24 or 48 hours. He's like, I'd be over there first flight and have it done. I'm like, if that's the case, I would argue that I don't like nuclear war. I feel like we're continuing to push Putin into a position that, I mean, eventually he's just going to be stuck in a corner. And if he's about to die, why is he going to give a shit?
I don't think that's the worry. I don't think he's that crazy. I think that my real concern is that we've just forced Russia and China to have a more serious relationship with one another leading up to an event with Taiwan that could definitely be the most dangerous thing we witness in our lifetime other than extreme advancement of AI.
I still don't understand the Taiwan thing besides the fact that we want
it used to be a part of China, then it broke off from China. China's wanted it back, and
but
just
we don't
like
back
Ukraine,
them.
It's literally the Ukraine thing, but Taiwan and China.
And there's a lot of technology in Taiwan.
That's what I was going to say.
Really devastating to us. But here's the question again.
And it's a huge military advantage.
Right, exactly.
Huge military advantage.
Right. The Navy, the shipment lanes there are huge into South China Sea.
It's just like Hawaii to us. Like having an island like that, there's a lot of advantages.
So here's the question I got for you guys. China attacks Taiwan. Do we put American soldiers into Taiwan?
No.
Let them have it. Same thing with Russia and Ukraine.
I'm not sure we do either.
No.
But, you know,
I don't think if the U.S. didn't
We need to be anti-war.
I will kill you.
That's one of my libertarian values now.
We need to just stop helping everybody. Like
we are the world police.
We're not helping anyone. We're not helping Ukraine.
Yes, we are.
We're not.
If we're gonna go over there and help them end the
We're
war.
part of the reason these places lost to Ukraine and lost Taiwan in the first place.
Well,
I'm saying is we're not helping anyone. We're just there to piss people off. Everyone thinks we're there helping Ukraine, and I'm sure we're helping Ukraine. But in reality, we're just trying to piss off Russia. None of the politicians genuinely care.
Yeah.
Like people making the decisions, in my opinion, don't genuinely care about helping Ukraine or helping Taiwan. They more so care about how it affects Russia and affects China.
Yep.
And since they're not extremely clear with their intent,
resources.
Yeah, and resources.
With Taiwan especially, because they got what? They got all cobalt and all that stuff over there.
You're right, but I think a lot of what's going on in Russia and Ukraine has to do with, again, follow the money. I was watching 60 Minutes this weekend, and they were talking about, you know, the American kind of military complex where you've got these military contractors who, if you would Google like a part on a jet or something, it'd be like $30 you could get this part, but we're paying, the taxpayers of America are paying like $8,000 for this part.
Yeah.
And it's like the politicians, you know, they get their money from these big contractors, the Boeings, the Lockheed Martins of the world, And so they've almost always got to have us in some kind of military conflict because they've got to pay. They've got to. These guys want the. And so we finally
think about it. It's been that way for as long as me and you have been alive.
We finally move out of Afghanistan and Iraq, and the politicians know that there's not a stomach now for sending a Marine somewhere to die. Right. So the next best thing is you give all this equipment.
Yeah.
And that makes the contractors happy, right? And they keep feeding the politicians. Yeah.
I wish they'd just go start their own. They have enough money between a lot of them. Just go start their own country and just fuck with people full time.
So going back here real quick about Biden's son and that whole thing. So he was on the board for the energy company in Ukraine, right? So apparently when we helped overthrow the U.S. and, well, I guess really NATO, helped Ukraine overthrow a democratically elected leadership before who's in now.
What's right? Zelensky is in now. Well, yeah,
there was two people before Zelensky
right.
that were, and we overthrew. I forget. It was like
because they were extremely corrupt. I mean, corruption was the thing that the reason that
and now they're not corrupt.
Well, no, I think they are.
I would argue to say they're more corrupt now because they have.
But that was the reason why they moved on from leadership.
The official reason, yeah.
Right,
See, this is the problem with like even having a conversation like this, because you and myself and even Matt and Katie, probably wherever you read it back in the day about that, I've never read about it. Wherever you read,
Whitney Webb,
don't do
Whitney Webb podcast on Patrick Bet-David last week. Whitney Webb's a badass journalist, and she literally she talked for like 3 hours about a bunch of this stuff.
Well, unless she went out there, did investigative journalism firsthand.
All she does, yeah.
Well, I'm saying this specific instance. Obviously, she also reads, so let's assume that she read.
Like she doesn't even live in the United States. She only flies back here for certain stuff and then leaves because she's scared that they're just going to take her. She's legit, Whitney Webb.
She United States?
Yeah, she's American, yeah.
But see, even talking about this, and it's most likely coming from one of the 95% that's controlled by, these 5 companies or these 5 companies. And it's so hard for me to even try to digest conversations with this where we talk about, you talked about how he went in there and overthrew not 1, but 2 democratically elected.
No, they overthrew a Democrat. So Zelensky's been the 3rd president since we overthrew or helped to overthrow.
So the 3 after that are good according to the official.
Zelensky was a stand-up comedian. And an
actor,
I
know.
Before he got elected.
And
well, he's also. What's insane about him is he's been he literally said that the United States should go to war with Russia. And I forget, and Biden never said anything about it. So it's almost like I don't understand how we put this guy in such a powerful position that he's now giving us. It doesn't make any sense. Anyways.
Well, actually, this conversation could go on forever, and this episode actually ended up being a whole hell of a lot more fun. But unfortunately, I have bad news. Ron, before I wrap up today's episode, what social media profiles, business of yours, etc., would you like to plug for the audience to go out and follow to learn more about you?
You can go to our website, sbmon.com. You can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn as well.
Okay, sbmon.com. Small Business Monthly on?
Is there any events you got going on soon?
Well, November 8th is our next big expo at St. Charles Convention Center.
What is the June? There's one in June.
Yeah, we have our family-owned business awards, where we're going to bring in some family-owned businesses, and they're going to talk about how they move from generation to generation and how they're able to successfully do that.
Interesting. I saw Ferguson Roofing is going to be talking at that.
Oh, well.
Should probably get some tickets.
Maybe.
Anyways.
That said, Ron, Eric, that's all the time we have for today. However, the St. Louis podcast will be back again next week at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time with a new episode, new guest, and unfortunately, more of your hosts, Eric Brown and myself, Garrett Atkins. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching live or later and we said something wrong, said something you hate, or said something you want to hear more about, you can visit us at stlouispodcast.com. Once again, that's stlouispodcast.com. Yes, I got that domain name. And leave us a message telling us all about it. Finally, this episode was recorded at Half Coast Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're looking to start a podcast or take your current podcast to the next level, whether you're local to St. Louis or walking on the Great Wall of China, reach out to them at halfcoaststudios.com. Once again, that's HALF coaststudios.com. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Ron, and a pleasure hosting this podcast for the people of St. Louis with you, Eric. But we'll see you again next week at Friday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay classy, San Diego.
Thank you.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our sponsor, Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee. Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance is recruiting agency owners here in St. Louis.
That's right, Garrett, and everyone knows what Farmers Insurance is, and if they don't, they will now.
Yes, it's kind of a household name. That said, as many of you know, a large part of our audience is made up of badass business owners, entrepreneurs, and top producing sales professionals with an open mind like yourself. Farmers Insurance is currently searching for driven individuals who aspire to own their own business or already own their own business and want to add another income stream to join the Farmers Insurance brand and own their own insurance agency.
This is a stellar opportunity to build your own insurance agency from scratch, take over an existing agency, or if you're just a slow roller, we know you, the guys out there and ladies, get paid to train under an existing successful agency owner before starting your own.
Holy shit, Eric. That means that whether you have experience as a business owner or you've never heard the word business before in your life, there's a pathway to owning your own business through Farmers Insurance Agency led by Mark Lee.
That's right. You can become a Farmers Insurance business owner even if you've been homeless in the past, just like you.
Yeah, thanks.
If you've ever dreamt of being your own boss, building a team under a reputable brand, and making a difference in your community by offering top-tier auto, home, and commercial insurance to consumers and businesses in your area, Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the godlike man himself, Mark Lee, has the perfect opportunity for you.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com to speak with Mark Lee, the district manager of Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, to become a Farmers Insurance agency owner today.
Did you hear that, St. Louis? Go visit insurancecareerstl.com. Insurancecareerstl.com. That is INSURANCE. Career, CAREERSTL.com.
To become a business owner today, again, one more time, visit insurancecareerstl, as in St. Louis.com today, right now, this second, or reach out to us at stlouispodcast.com and we'll introduce you to Mark Lee ourselves. And I promise he won't spell out insurance and career to you.